Oh my God, this is great. Ryan, we don't even have to compete. I've already
It's
learned so
over.
much.
Kate wins, and
Easy peasy.
Kate, your word next week is
Oh. Hello.
Welcome back to Whyte Noise.
Ryan, who is our fabulous guest judge today?
We have Kate Larson with us, who is a real, in-person geologist.
Also known as the groovy geologist, which I love. Hello, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, thank you guys for having me and for waiting a half hour while I was asleep.
You are 1,000% fine.
I can't even claim it's a time zone difference. We're in the same time zone. I just had a really late night.
What were you up to? Anything fun?
We were watching Severance, and then my boyfriend and I decided to go on our whiteboard that we have mounted to our wall and just list stuff. We were just having a conversation, and we were just listing stuff, and he's like, all right, we gotta put this up here and this up here. And I was so tired, but we had a fun time. We like making lists.
Wait, what were you listing?
Yeah, I want to know.
That's a personal question.
That's fair. What happens on a person's whiteboard is their own business.
Yeah.
Ryan, you had a late night too. So you're working at the same level right now. Because Ryan, you had a fun one.
I went to Kylie Minogue last night with every other gay in New York City, and it was fabulous. It was a great show. And then we hopped in the car and I drove 2 hours to get where I am now. I was going to ask you, Kate, where are you? Because I'm gambling New York based upon some of your socials, but I'm in Woodstock.
Oh, I'm in Albany.
Oh, we had to down the street.
Down the street. Up the street.
Up the street. Oh my God, I'm from Syracuse.
Oh, cool.
And I have family in Albany. Upstate New York all the way.
I think Syracuse is more Western tier.
Yes.
Yes. But if you're from New York City, then it's okay if you don't know any of the region names. And then we laugh about that a little bit.
Yes. Well, I'm in New York City now. And it's just everyone I talk to from here, they're like, oh my God, Scarsdale is upstate. And they're like, anything north of the bridge, you're going upstate. And it's just
Yeah. I'm from Long Island. And I thought that everything north of the city was upstate. I'd be going to Vermont. Oh, I'm going upstate,
It gives me a giggle. Yeah, they consider Catskills the upstate. I'm
yes. You have to leave Poughkeepsie, I think, to be considered upstate. I think that might be my
that's fair.
My line.
What is it? I was going to say, I think you got to get to, what is I don't know, I'm blanking. The lake that's just north of here, the big lake that everyone goes to.
My first thought was Lake George, but that's nowhere near you.
Yeah, Lake George, right?
Oh, really?
Lake George is north of me.
Lake George is
I feel but that's upstate. That's I feel like you've really worked on that up part by the time you get to.
Yeah,
that's true. You've committed.
That's rich person Canada area.
I was going to say, yeah, you're just a skip away from Canada at that point. So you are. Wait, Kate, tell me about your podcast real quick, because we were just chatting and you have a podcast.
So I have a podcast called The Schist of It, and that's a pun because there's a metamorphic rock called schist, and I don't have one within arm's reach. I should probably put one of every rock within arm's reach.
Doesn't it have lots of mica in it?
It does have lots of mica in it. You find lots of it. If you're New York City guys, then the rocks that you walk on in Central Park is schist.
Oh.
It's Manhattan schist. It's got garnets in it, lots of mica. If you ever see little tiny holes in the rock when you're sitting on it, that's people who plucked out the garnets thinking that they were worth something.
Oh, and they're not worth anything.
That's cool.
Oh.
But the podcast is about breaking down new publications, these really complex, difficultly, difficult terminology and prose of these scientific papers that is notoriously hard to read, especially if you are not a geoscientist. Even for us, it's hard for us to understand. So I perfected the way to read these and the way to break them down. And so I like to imagine that I could do this every week. I definitely can't. I used to, but it was a lot of fun to talk about new things and kind of jump on it before a bunch of IFL Science Facebook page misinterprets it, and then a bunch of people get a bunch of wrong information. It happens so often.
So you're kind of like the groovy John Playfair.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's the guy. So I'm going to talk about him in a minute, but he's the guy that rewrote all of James Hutton's stuff so that people could understand it.
Oh, okay. See, I know about James Hutton, and I have not read anything that's specifically his.
I don't know who James Hutton is, so you're gonna have to tell me who that is too.
Oh, James Hutton is the father of geology. At least
Oh,
one of the there's many fathers of things. There's the father of stratigraphy, that's Steno. Hutton was, I think, he was friends with Darwin, I believe.
Oh.
Charles Darwin.
Just stop.
Oh.
You're messing up my talk.
you're taking right.
Sorry.
Yes, keep talking, keep talking.
It's my fault. It's my
So
fault.
he
I
has
did this.
nothing to
Okay.
talk about. Welcome to my world, Ryan. You go into your 10 minutes with 2 minutes of information. That sounds like proper work and like an important thing that you're actually talking about. Probably you're like, here's really cool, dense information. Let me translate it for you.
Yeah. Though this is still an important topic too. Don't
Oh my
worry.
God, thank you. Also, I do really enjoy your Instagram page, by the way. Groovy Geologist.
you.
Friends, definitely go
Yes.
check it out. Oh, how we study geology on Mars. You shared like a presentation, I think, about that.
Oh, that's like my favorite talk to give. I travel the country, even in Canada, giving that talk in museums and parks and stuff. I love it.
Oh, wait, is it somewhere? I've defined this talk then, because I find Mars fascinating.
Mars is my like specialty, so I'm going to grad school in the fall, officially starting that, studying Martian sedimentary rocks. So Mars has been something that fascinated me my whole life, and I really wanted to talk about how much I love it and all the cool ways that, Mars and geology come together. And so I made this talk, and I give that to all ages audiences. It's my most popular, like most requested talk that I'm asked to give. I've given it at national parks, museums, schools. My local library is fun too. They do love those. All the, there's like 4 kids and like 10 old people.
Oh,
And they all have really
Perfect mix.
adjacent questions.
yeah, I think that in this post you're at the Badlands, which seems like a very cool place.
That was I got to give that talk there 2 years in a row, because the Badlands National Park has such similar geology to Mars, and so it's a really good place to teach that and to get people who are there to be like, oh my god, I'm gonna go hike this tomorrow and have new thoughts about it.
There's actually a fairly famous, well, I don't know if it's famous, but there was a photo released by NASA that they said was a photo of Mars. And when you look at it very closely, there's a rodent that's present in the lower right-hand side of it that's from the Badlands. And it turns out it's just a photo from the Badlands.
Was it an April Fool's Day joke?
No, this is actually falls into some sort of like, it falls into conspiracy theory because they did publish it as if it was real. And then ultimately debunked because somebody's like, there's a, what do you call it, rodent right there. And you zoom in and it's like very clearly.
Why does it feel like an intern somewhere screwed up?
I think an intern somewhere screwed up.
And then NASA was like, maybe they won't notice because it looks really similar.
That's the kind of stuff I wind up dealing with, is people who have like conspiracies. Oh, it's the worst part of my job as the conspiracy theorists.
Do you have a favorite?
I have
Or like the wildest one.
the wildest one is people who think that a rock that is shaped like a thing is that thing preserved in rock. So there are people who think that there were once giants that roamed the earth, and then the Great Flood happened, and then those giants got turned to stone. So they see a rock that looks kind of like a face, and they're like, that was a giant, undisputable.
Oh.
And I think that's really sad because it just throws away the fact that it's really cool that there were so many circumstances to lead to this rock looking that way. Why can't you just think that, wow, that's a beautiful sign? If you're religious, you can see it as a beautiful, sign from your God or whatever, that a rock wound up looking like a face. That's kind of cool. I have rocks that have smiley faces in them. I think it's neat. But to go so far as to say that the governments and scientists of the world are hiding.
Covering something up?
I didn't know that there was a theory that there were giants. That's really fun.
It's called the mud fossil theory, if you wanted to go look at it. There are Facebook groups, and they are absolutely out of their minds.
I wonder if they're friends with the flat earthers. It feels like
Probably,
a similar
yes.
world.
Yeah.
Where they're
yes.
like, the world is flat and it used to be inhabited by giant people. Well, should we actually try this, Ryan?
Yeah, I think we should. So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. The word is geology. Kate, we're going to talk. We're going to just spew BS for a solid 10 minutes apiece. And then, for whatever reason you see fit, you pick the winner.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
And feel free to chime in because
Yeah, sure.
it's not so much, what do you call them, Ryan? It's not a TED Talk. It's
a Bob talk.
a Bob Talk.
We like it when it's particularly mean, too. No, actually, Dawn, I cried last time. So.
Oh, okay.
There were a lot of tears after the last one.
From the archaeologist brought you to tears.
I mean, listen, little did he know that was a real trigger for Ryan.
I have so many.
But all right, so who would you like to
first?
go first? Now that you know us so well.
I'd like to put Ryan on the spot and go first and work. Not gonna get worked up thinking about last week.
I'll try not to cry.
Great. I love when Ryan goes first because he usually has great information that I can then piggyback off of. Okay, Ryan, are you ready?
I think so.
Your time starts now.
Cool. So I thought I'd start by going through a little bit of history. And that's actually how I learned a good bit about James Hutton and his boy toy, John Playfair. Geology has been present since about, or at least in terms of what we've been able to record from humans, since the Greeks in 4th century BC, where Aristotle observed or wrote down observations around geology. And it actually seems like geology in terms of history was very observational all the way up until about the 17th century. So 11th century, the Shin Kao, I'm probably not saying that right. China, observational geology. Arsena from Persia, same time period, also observational geology. And then our good friend Leonardo da Vinci, also in the Renaissance period, had commentary on mountains and other significant geological formations. But it's not till we get into the 17th and 18th century, and you mentioned Steno a little bit earlier. Did I get this right? Is he the one that penned? No, he's not the one that penned dinosaurs. Oh, he was Danish. And he acknowledges rock layering. And this is where we start to get into the more like physical engagement.
Yeah, that's what stratigraphy is, rock layering, essentially.
Stratigraphy.
Like the study of the rocks in sequence like that.
I feel like I've got to find a way to drop stratigraphy into a conversation in this coming week.
You got to go to somebody's party. If they have a 7-layer bean dip, you got to make a comment on, wow, the stratigraphic layers of that bean dip look spectacular.
Or I feel like if at work, I'll be like, I feel like this strategy has some real stratigraphy to it.
Maybe.
Okay, she's like, that one's a stretch, but like, go for it.
Good Lord. But we get into 18th century and we get to Mr. James Hutton, who is a farm boy who is apparently acknowledging and starting to look at like how the environment starts to shape the land. And he creates uniformitarianism, which is in principle the idea that the geology around us is constantly changing as a result of how things operate around it. Whereas before it was catastrophianism, which is the idea, which is like big events take place that create the world that we see today. Whereas he's like, no, this is a very long-standing, ongoing process that's constantly changing, morphing.
You can see how the change was from the church idea to the science idea.
Yes, and he was heckled like openly and constantly because of this. And he was kind of fighting in the face of the church. And this is actually a little bit that we bridge into Charles Lyell and Darwin. So Charles Lyell, 19th century, more like golden age of geology, expanded on a lot of James Hutton's work. And he and Charles and Darwin were absolutely besties, which I'm going to talk a little bit about.
Yes, that's what I was confused about.
Yeah, so Charles very much influenced Darwin. So I think it's the idea of uniformitarianism is an idea of evolution, which heavily influenced, obviously, Darwin's ideas around what we are or what living species are. And the fact that if the living world or the geological world is evolving, we're very likely evolving alongside of it to continue to adapt to its changes. Also,
Exactly.
very long periods of time, right, that take place to make this happen. Oddly enough, Charles Lyell, while Bessie's with Darwin, was super hesitant to endorse Darwin's theories of evolution. He was like, eh. And he was, so Charles Lyell was also quite a fastidious gentleman who operated amongst the upper echelons of society. And as a result, was also kind of close at that time, a lot of church leaders and church people also quite prestigious. And his embracing of evolution would have likely not downgraded, but challenged his status amongst his peers. So he danced around it. And it's kind of said that he was actually extremely appreciative of Darwin's work, but didn't till much later on start to really embrace it. And even then was a little bit tepid in terms of how he embraced. It said that when Darwin wrote On the Origin of Species, that his biggest concern was disappointing Lyell.
Oh.
Yeah. And actually, I did go read a little bit. Like, there's no documented love affair there, but Darwin did call him master and guide and actively named various large, hard geological formations after Lyell.
Weirdly, though, if there was a bromance, it would have been a love triangle because Lyell's wife, Mary, studied seashells, and she was interested in the evolution of snails and was giving shells to Darwin. So she was collecting shells, giving them to Darwin for his studies, and she was more accepting of the theory of evolution than Charles was.
And oddly enough, her name is Shelley.
No, it's Mary Horner Lyell.
No, I'm just joking.
Oy.
Shelley sells seashells on the seashore. I was going to say, it actually kind of turns out to your point, Kate, like a lot of these folks were all interrelated. They all knew each other. They all kind of ran in the same circles. And were in reality, I think, very, very supportive of each other. But this is where I was going to bridge into and kind of go off in a different area just because it came to my mind and I needed a way to get there. How much time do I have left, Michael? I got to figure out.
You have 2.5 minutes.
Oh, this is perfect. So the next thing that kind of came to mind was geodes and like the whole culture around geodes. And just to preface, like there's quite obviously no known physical effect of geodes on humans. That I actually like the way the research I did kind of laid it out, which is there's no peer-reviewed science that says that there's an effect. Now, that being said, geodes very much likely have a placebo effect. So in other words, because you believe it is, your mind allows it to be. They are clearly a meditational tool because they provide a point of focus. They are a form of retail therapy. So if you enjoy them and you look forward to purchasing them, it is an outlet for stress relief. But I think the reality here is that the power of a geode is that it's really kind of a capsule of primordial soup that tells a bit of history. Now, unfortunately, we have one, my opinion, kind of famous scandal in this space, and it revolves around a jade vaginal egg.
I've heard about this.
Our favorite gal.
Gwyneth Paltrow and Goop. Gwyneth Paltrow on her Goop website sold this jade vaginal egg that was intended to improve hormonal balance, enhance sexual energy, strengthen pelvic floor. Now, actually, I think that's the one thing that it may have actually contributed to, like the ability to hold it up in there. That was the one thing it could do.
The stone egg inside of you.
In there.
That sounds so uncomfortable.
My favorite is to clear feminine energy blockages. She sold this thing on her website and like OBGYNs went crazy. And they're like, okay, so jade is fairly porous, which means it's collecting bacteria every time you use it. And you're returning that bacteria.
Oh, no.
Back, like bacteria you probably don't want back there. So, like, the way one OBGYN put it is like, this is a clear class action UTI waiting to happen. And basically, California fined her $140,000 and forced her to return the cost to them. But as I understand it, Gwyneth wishes them well. So, which I don't know. That's the quote from that skiing case where she walked out and she's like, "I wish you well."
Yeah.
Anyway,
the greatest court case. We were saying she deserves an Oscar for that entire court
that
case.
performance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was time, Ryan. I did not know that was the scandal. I just figure Goop to me is just irritating. So, like, her and her company, I
think Gwyneth is just irritating. She's made it a brand.
But entertaining.
Yeah. Kate, are you ready for more?
Yes, please.
All right, Ryan.
Ready, set, go.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Hi, Kate. I'm glad you're hydrating. And let me start this off with, I really like your t-shirt. It has a big flower on it and it's happy.
I slept in it last night and wore it all day yesterday.
Good for you. You're living your best life and I really appreciate that.
I work from home.
I have a very long commute in subways that are in tunnels surrounded by rocks.
Manhattan schist.
Manhattan schist. So much schist, which actually I can't wait to now like work that in conversation, look around for schist.
Belvedere Castle is made of that rock, by the way. Just anyways, go on.
Ooh.
I'm going to go hunting for garnets.
I know. That's my mom's birthstone, I think. Okay, so when I think of geology, I think of Broadway legend Carol Channing. She is a fun YouTube rabbit hole someday. She was a really wacky Broadway star from like the 1940s through to like the 1990s, early 2000s. If you know the show Hello, Dolly, if you've ever heard of that. She was the original Dolly. That was like her biggest thing. I'm going to get to how I end up at Carol Channing. Why I do that is because of a geologist. So right before lockdown, or a couple years before lockdown, I went to Antarctica with my family. We had this really cool through this company called Quark. And it's like one of those smaller like expedition style trips, not like a, Princess Cruise. And so we get down there on day one. We sort of split up into little groups, and the way they design the trip is there's all these different guides from around the world, and they all specialize in something different. And one of the guides was this German geologist who's a professor in Germany, but like loves Antarctica. So he comes and works for this company for like 2 months out of the year during his break, and just like is one of the guides. So, and it's sort of like you never know who you're going to get depending on the day and where you're going. So we just happen to end up in his little boat, his little rubber boat, with like the 6 other people. And so everybody's kind of going off with their different guides. And he was like, "Oh, you're lucky you're with me. I'm going to take you to this wonderful place. None of the other guides know about this. So we're going to go. And it's a big secret." And you're like, okay, it's a secret to like everybody who's gone on this trip before you. Okay, great. So we go, and he's like, "So I'm so-and-so, I'm a German geologist. I don't remember his name. We're going to call him like Bjorn." So anyway, that's not a German name. So he takes us around. So all the other, what are those called? Those little rubber boats with little motors.
Dinghy.
Dinghies,
I guess we'll call them dinghy. All the dinghies go in one direction. Ours goes in the other direction. And so a little bit of me was like, is this guy going to murder us? But we'll see. So we go around this big bend, this big, it's Antarctica, icy glacier, gorgeousness. And we come around and the water is so dark. It's like this deep, like black navy blue color. I don't know if you've been, have you been to Antarctica, Kate?
No. I'm familiar with what the water looks like.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I didn't. I went, I was like, wow, I've never seen water like this. And so we're sitting in this bay and he turns off the motor and we're just sort of floating quietly. And there's a huge glacier in front of us. And he was like, "Just give it a second, give it 1 minute. We sit here. You will be in awe. And a couple minutes later, this mist comes over the glacier and it's just absolutely beautiful. And then the sun pops out and the whole bay just lights up, and it turns out it was full of black ice. And which it's like pure ice that was coming off of the glacier. So for people who don't know black ice, it's like ice, but it almost looks like diamonds because it's just completely clear. So you can't really see it. Turns out the bay was full of it, but you didn't see it until the light hit it just the right way. And then the whole bay just sparkled. Like it was just full of these big, beautiful diamonds. And it was stunning. So it made me think of diamonds. And well, he's a geologist. And so now I associate him with diamonds. And diamonds I associate with Carol Channing because she did the original Broadway version of the show called Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which they turned into a movie with Marilyn Monroe. And that's where the song Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend comes from.
Oh.
She was the first one to sing it before. And she's got this weird raspy voice. It's very different from Marilyn. And she's like, damn, Jerry Goose. Lots of drag queens play Carol Channing because she had this like wacky, deep, raspy voice. And she was tall and she had white hair. And she's sort of like, imagine if like a box of tissues was on a spring and it talked like a Muppet. That was Carol Channing.
Oh my God.
And anyone listening who's seen her, I am right. And she always had diamonds. And so, but now this is where I'm really, so that's how Carol Channing and a German geologist are forever fused in my brain. And so for the rest of the trip, by the way, in Antarctica, he was brilliant. I always wanted to be with him because anytime we went over, he would point out these really cool rock formations and, you know, just sort of go off on these wonderful tangents. And he gave some great presentations on the trip. But so anyway, so my brain went to Carol Channing, though, and diamonds. And so I was curious to learn more about also, Carol Channing was the first person to perform at the Super Bowl, the first halftime performance.
Wow.
Which is also
No kidding.
amazing how we went from like Carol Channing singing Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend to like Beyonce and like Justin Timberlake and doing these epic shows. So maybe what I ended up going down was trying to just sort of learn more about diamonds, but then a friend right before I started this told me that's not geology, that's gemology.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
darn.
gemology, people who are really into like the formation and the context of how minerals form, that's mineralogy, that's geology, petrology. I mean, there are minerals. So like everything's connected, right?
Mhm.
And geology encompasses like the looking at stuff and making interpretations about how it formed and what happened there. You'd have to understand mineralogy. You have to understand petrology to make an interpretation about that. So if I was going to find diamonds in a rock, I'm like, oh, this was really deep rock. There must have been kimberlite pipes somewhere coming up to bring this deep diamond to a much less deep rock area. So you'd have to have some kind of understanding there. But gemology is less of a science than mineralogy is in terms of like the natural world. Gemology focuses on like the optical, natural, not like the pretty properties, the things that we want out of gems and minerals that we make jewelry and precious stuff out of. Like that's gemology. Those kinds of people understand the optical properties, the ways that you cut it and polish it to make it look the best. Study a lot of the chemistry stuff without a lot of the deeper science. So people who are
Gotcha.
gemologists are like a very hyper specific kind of mineralogist. That makes sense.
Yes.
Find a bunch of them on 37th Street in Midtown.
But yeah, it was interesting though, because I know about how diamonds, you know, being the hardest, you know, thing, but I didn't know that they came from, like, the reason that they are is because they come from so deep. Like when you said that, something so deep down, it was just interesting to be like this, to learn, because I don't know much about them, to think that they develop in the mantle.
I could not say for sure. I don't think it's the mantle. I think it's like upper mantle. I can't say for sure because I don't know enough about that stuff. That is
Gotcha.
like outside
but then
of
that
my
it's brought up from like lava. I saw this. There was this one really interesting woman. I think she's Russian, who had this YouTube video that I watched all about it. And you know, I'm still in German accent world. Russian. So she's like, welcome to YouTube page. And I have, you know, diamonds. They started in the mantle and then they brought up by the lava to higher up. And I was like, that's insane that diamonds could, like, that's how they came up, was through like essentially volcanoes from way back God knows when. But so cool that you could use them to trace, like, this must be, if it's surrounded by something, this must have come from somewhere very deep. And where that actually, how much time do I have left, Ronnie? I feel like I've been
45
talking forever.
seconds.
Oh, wait, but that got me into nanodiamonds, which is what I was excited about. So I didn't know about nanodiamonds until I read about this, that there are diamonds the size of like 2 strands of DNA that they think originated from when a meteor hit Earth and hit diamonds that had been brought up during that age. And so now we have nanodiamonds, which they're using in science. Like, I watched a very complicated presentation on how they're using nanodiamonds to try and treat prostate cancer. Because nanodiamonds can carry medication and they can pass through the brain-blood barrier. And I think I said that right. And so now it's like the next stage in medical research is using nanodiamonds to carry medication through our body.
Oh my God. And you made it just in the 45 seconds.
I just did. And sorry, that was actually the real crux. I was just having too much fun doing accents and talking about Carol Channing. But that's actually where I was going, where if like, I didn't get to do a really deep dive because like you were saying about how you translate papers. Sorry, I'm just going over time now. How you translate papers into things. The problem I had in researching this was I didn't understand any of it. Because I think it's at a stage where like nobody's done that yet, or if they have, I didn't find it. Because I was trying to read it and it was beyond what I could understand because I don't speak, medical. So I tried to watch presentations on nanodiamonds and their uses in the medical field. Mm-hmm. And even still, I was like, this is fascinating, but I still don't fully get it. But it was like the diamonds and specifically the mineral around it that they're using. Anyway.
Was it kimberlite?
I think so. That sounds right.
Might be. Yeah, because you find them in that. You find diamonds in kimberlite pipes that are like extending up from deeper, bringing it up there. I'm very loosely educated about that specific thing. I do not study petrology or mineralogy. It's a miracle that I passed those classes in college. Yeah.
Well, you have the hard part now. Well, maybe not that hard, but
I mean, I think it's pretty easy as to who our winner is today.
Oh, you had amazing accents. I do love a good impression, and that is so funny. I'd love to hear more about this German geologist.
He was great. I wish I remembered his name.
Just like that. We're literally just like that.
Yeah, he was a fun, wacky dude. He gave really solid like Miss Frizzle vibes if Miss Frizzle was a German geologist.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think I'm gonna go with Ryan though, because I liked that you went with you took like a history dive, and that's exactly what I do. Every time I go to write a lesson or research something or write a podcast episode, I wind up doing deep dives into who knows who. How did they do this? How are these people connected? And how is this connected? I did that in college and I got like extra credit. And yeah, I got like a bonus point on my page because I wrote like a whole second page about how these people knew each other.
All knew each other?
And my professor was just like, you didn't have to do all that. And I was like, I know, it was fun. I didn't wind up with like, it was like an extra point. I didn't have like 101. It was nothing less than 100 because it was, it was college and I wasn't great at this stuff yet. But
honestly, I thought I had lost on the impressions because your impressions were so good, Michael, and funny.
Oh, thank you.
But Kate, thank you very, very much. I was like, Kate, you were like laughing at the impressions, and I was like, well, this is over.
I love impressions, but I also really love I love deep dives. I love seeing how I like to see you guys realize just how connected not just all of geoscience is, but how all of these people are connected and they all learned from each other and they all worked together and collaborated. And we're still doing that. That's something that is very normal in this field. And it's funny when you compare it to something like paleontology, which they're constantly beefing with each other over nothing. Bone wars. Oh, that's your next week topic.
Bone wars?
Bone wars.
Bone wars.
Yeah. You guys are going to talk about the bone wars, and I can recommend you a paleontologist if you wanted to learn about
Yes, please. Okay,
so side note,
I
actually think I read about this. This came up in my research for this. And like, they're nasty to each other.
Nasty to each other.
Yeah, they're like really like they're mean to each other.
Why has Ryan Murphy not gotten on this? This sounds like a great like feud series. Like, forget Hollywood stars, throw in paleontologists.
It's a fun thing to like slowly be learning about here and there, and just I'm meeting more paleontologists like through my work, because there's a lot of overlap. And so I meet paleontologists who have been in the field, for decades, and they've all got beef with each other. They've all got stories to tell. I've heard stories from like 3 different paleontologists about this one person who I've never met. I don't remember what their name is, but they're like the worst person ever and everyone hates them. And I'm like, this is insane if you guys are beefing over this. And they're all in like the same like research groups in the city and in the West, I guess. But the Bone Wars is like a really interesting one, because that is like, and I'm going to the place. I'm going to Canyon City in Colorado in a few weeks. And that is like where the first dinosaur stuff was found by one of the people in the Bone Wars stuff. So that was a pretty cool. I'm excited to go there and just be learning about that and then go nuts talking about it.
Please post about it.
Everyone can find you at Groovy Geologist, and if they want to like see you speak, do you post where your speaking engagements are, or like what you'll be up to?
I usually post about that on my Instagram. I'm giving a talk at the Maine Gem and Mineral Museum in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I think April 26th, I think is the day that I'm giving the talk.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kate. You can finally go have coffee, do what you need to do, start your day. But thank you for starting your day with us.
Yeah, with us. Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
No, this is a perfect thing to wake up and do. This is actually just perfect. Every morning I wake up and I want to talk about rocks. And yeah, not everyone around me wants to do that first thing in the morning. Ryan. My boyfriend's name is Ryan.
Oh, I was like, but I feel this is, I just did. You're going to see, You're going to make me cry. I told you.
Oh, there he goes again. The waterworks. Wait, what? Tell Ryan that, he needs to step it up in his rock chat first thing in the morning then.
Here we go. I will. Yeah.
See you next week for Bone Wars.